everybody. Welcome to another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Dad. It's Francis and Nate, both of us in our respective hot boxes as the world still burns around us in heat. We've got corn sweat here in the Midwest, and you got Giant Lake there in Geneva. How are things? How are things in new European country?
Well, I mean, I'll say this much. It's beautiful here, and some things went really well in terms of the stuff that we can actually plan and influence ourselves. A lot of stuff that still needs to get done is just going to happen when it happens, and we can't really accelerate it. It's very difficult to get apartments here. There's just a very, very low vacancy rate, and there's some things we can't get until we get our residence permits, which Geneva is a hugely international city. Residence permits are processed by your local government, not by the federal government, and it's August in Europe, so they basically said expect our appointment for biometric registration to be like 4 to 5 weeks after we arrived. So unfortunately, we can't open bank accounts without those. Now, it's not a problem because there's a challenger bank in Britain that I use that allows me to have a personal account that's denominated in Swiss francs, and I can use it to make payments here. And also, like, using that and the digital card, you can do contactless everywhere here. So that makes it a little bit easier to, for example, pay for stuff and not have to constantly be sweating the exchange rate or foreign transaction fees. But yeah, I would really like us to have cell phone contracts, for example. We can't really until we have our residence permits. We can't get bank accounts until we have our residence permits. We can get an apartment without residence permits, but it's just really, really hard to get one. I went and did a viewing yesterday. It would be fine, although not necessarily my preference, but it was completely under construction, under renovation, like in the sense that there were no fixtures at all. Everything was being renovated. You could see through the bathroom wall into the kitchen because they were still renovating it. And there were like 20 or 30 people when I did the viewing, and every single person who I saw come in came out and asked for a form to apply for it, to include me. So that's
a little pass through from the bathroom to the kitchen.
Well, they had removed the toilet. Obviously, they were going to replace it, but for the time being, the toilet was sitting on the balcony. I've got the photo of the balcony toilet. I can send it to you.
That's some Swiss ingenuity there. What if I want to take a dump, but also enjoy the sights of Geneva?
Yeah, enjoy the sights that, unfortunately, the balcony looks over to a bunch of other tall buildings and a construction site. But that one in particular is very centrally located, so there are some things about it that would make it good for us. There are a couple that we have a relocation service. They're not necessarily the greatest in the world, but they do help with some things. But one place that we're going to look at next week is actually, it's not in Geneva, the city. It's slightly outside of the city, but it's actually perfect, I think. There's no way of guaranteeing anything, and I have no idea what's going to happen. But if it does work out, I think it would be great. We'll see. So knock on wood for that one. But then on Friday of next week, I have to go back to London to handle moving and getting rid of our stuff and cleaning the place and all that stuff. So in a way, that's not bad because it's like I can just slug it out and handle things. And I'm a resourceful person. I'm not worried. I know how it works in England. I mean, I'm not even that really bothered by the language barrier right now because I'm having to do so much stuff in French that like I've just gotten used to speaking French all the time again. You know, everything with childcare is in French, everything with organizing health insurance is in French, everything with apartments is in French. I mean, I can do it in English with a lot of times with real estate, but it's so much easier if you speak French. Stuff with shopping, asking questions, getting registrations, everything. Like when it comes to government stuff, like English is not an official language of Switzerland, so like they aren't necessarily obligated to accommodate you. So me being a French speaker, I mean, I'm realizing there's a lot of French words I didn't learn. Like I didn't learn the word for baby bottle or pacifier or a baby bib or stroller because I never used this. Why would I? I was 17 and then 20 when I lived there, and I wasn't having such a great time in France that I was creating any babies. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. I mean, it's been great, honestly. I mean, like we had kind of a bad experience with our initial childcare that we had arranged, and I won't go into detail. It was nothing dangerous, but it was just a clash of everything and bad. So we cut that off after 2 days, and thankfully through connection was able to find something that's like slightly more than part-time. Like it's basically 6.5, 7 hours a day if we go early, but ends at like 3:30, 4 days a week. And then on Wednesdays we can't. And it's not close to us, but it's like a 15, 20 minute tram ride from where we live now.
That's not bad.
So when we have an elevator in our building, it's an old building and they retrofitted an elevator. So it's like a weird kind of like trapezoid shape. But Cynthia bought a stroller for the baby in London because she is great at doing her homework and researching. And she found a stroller that works really really, really well for being able to be folded, stash in a backpack, so you can bring it as a carry-on on planes, and you can also leave the baby in the stroller, but fold the push handle down to create more space. So that's great on crowded buses in London, for example. But by doing that, you can very, very easily fit her in the stroller in the elevator, as opposed to the first day, we didn't know this. We thought we wouldn't fit. So every time you got in the building, you had to basically get her out of the fold the stroller up one-handed while holding her, and then go up, six individual steps to the elevator, and then get in, carry everything up, and it was a nightmare. So thankfully, we solved that. So I take her down, and we get on the tram together, and I go out to this it's not really a suburb per se in the sense that it's all part of the canton of Geneva, but it's actually, technically speaking, it's a different town, but it's like part of the urban agglomeration of Geneva, and bring her to the carer's house. She's great. She's a young woman. She's studying, doing like a different degree program, and she has a 3-year-old that's already in a nursery there because she's Swiss. And so she watches her, and then she has to end it early because she's got another family she does after school care for. But it works. It's something, you know what I mean? It's better than nothing. Because I can handle it all myself, but I can't, you know very well, other than nap time when you're just lying on the couch with your eyes closed, you're, in a dead sweat, you can't do anything per se when you have a child this age.
No, like the picture you sent me of her with the Kleenex box, you also know that if you walk away and they're quiet, that's also a danger. At every point in time, you got to be very aware of what the child is doing.
Yeah, she is not yet at the age where I can would safely leave her in a lot, but for really any period of time. But she is old enough that she's sitting up, she's crawling, she's standing on things. We've done, as much sort of baby proofing as we can in the apartment without really messing things up, in the sense that it's a small two bedroom with kind of a kitchen area, and then a dining room area, and then a living room. It's in kind of a Flatiron building style building, and we're kind of at the narrow point on one of the top floors. So it's pretty cool. It's very scenic. It gets good ventilation, but it's a old European building, so it's just weird angles, and beautiful. But whoever lived here before, however they fitted it out before they started doing temporary rentals, didn't have a baby, so they have a coffee table that's made of marble and glass with really decorative metal legs.
Yeah,
so it's
perfect to crack your skull open on.
Yeah, she's actually pretty good now at being able to stand up, push herself against that table and stand up, and then when she wants to sit down on her bottom and not hit herself. But I sat with her, I still sit with her all the time because I'm worried about her bumping her head on it. But we did get yoga mats and put them down to create a padded area for her. But yeah, the photo in question, basically one time she was playing with her toys, and she was seeming, really, sometimes when she sits and plays and she's not crawling around and throwing her toys and chasing them and stuff, she will just sit quietly. And so it's I'm sitting in the room with her, watching her, but I can open my laptop. She was, I had my laptop open, I was checking on her, but I was reading a few emails. She was just playing quietly by herself. And then I looked over and realized the reason she was playing so quietly was that I had left a box of tissues, of Kleenex, on the coffee table, and she finally achieved her goal she's had for months, got a hold of the Kleenex box and took out every single one, and it was full.
Because look, I understand, because you pull one out, you're I'm going to take this, and then suddenly there's another one there. And you got to figure out, well, if I keep doing this, will there always be more Kleenex? And eventually the answer is no, and then you get bored and you crawl away. But you gotta, babies love testing gravity. They love something. If I do something and I get a response, what happens if I do these other responses? They're very, babies have an analytical side to them that you don't remember, because obviously they're babies, but you don't remember you doing it as a baby. But testing gravity, if I hold this and I let go and it falls to the ground, will that happen with everything? And you and I know, well, yes, but the 9-month-old doesn't know that. So
yeah,
test it out.
The almost 1-year-old loves doing mic drops on everything, particularly if she has an object inside her stroller while we're out walking.
Oh yeah,
I dramatically holding the arm out, and then the object drops, mic drop style. Yeah, it's very funny.
I have multiple times come up behind a family with something and look, your kid dropped a shoe, and neither one of you noticed it, and that's, you gotta,
oh yeah,
a kid takes a shoe off and is just I don't want the shoe in here anymore. I'm going to toss it out there, and I assume the shoe will be there again later. And the answer is no, it's not going to be there later.
So the funny thing is, this also happened the other day with, I had changed her when we came back, and she had a messy, poopy diaper. So I was got her, thankfully didn't leak or anything, so I didn't have to change her clothes. But I had changed her, and then I picked her up after I changed her and carried her with me to go to the kitchen to put we have these little mini trash bag thing, like dog poop bags, but for babies, to put like the stinky diapers in and then put it in the trash, and the trash can's under the sink. So closed the door to under the sink, came out and put her back down, and she was playing. And then I was dealing with some admin thing. I had just been on the phone having to speak French. And then I looked over and I saw she had gotten the baby wipes and had started doing the exact same thing. And she hadn't emptied, it wasn't the same day, it was like a week later. She hadn't emptied the entire thing, but she'd emptied a bunch. And because I've been speaking French so much, it was really funny. Like, I wasn't intending to do this for like comedic, dramatic effect. And this isn't actually correct French, but I looked at it and I just said, je me suis fucké, which literally would mean like I fucked myself, but fucké is not a verb in French, obviously.
I was hoping it would be a sacre bleu.
Sacre bleu. No, that's pretty. So sacre bleu and stuff like that is actually kind of, that's like saying dadgummit. Those kinds of swear, because sacre Dieu would be like, sacred God. And so like, well, it would be blasphemous to say that like as an expletive, right? So like people would change it instead of saying Dieu, which means God, it's bleu, like sacred blue. Like it's literally saying like dog on it, like that kind of a thing.
Sure.
They love doing this in Canadian French. Just uses a lot of the really old timey religious swears, like tabernacle and stuff like that, like tabernacle. And there's a lot about Canadian French that holds out old stuff because they were so cut off, and they were really like, there was the whole sort of, we refuse to be anglicized, we're going to assert French culture, but which is, they've preserved this kind of Canadian French culture, Quebecois culture. But Quebecois culture is like, in a lot of ways, the language, the weird accent notwithstanding, is also like kind of a time capsule of old timey French things from like the 1700s in some of the things
just
they
like
say.
St. Louis.
Well, yeah, it's the same people, really. It's just they stuck up there forever. Yeah. So, but yeah, I had to have a phone call about insurance in French. I actually had to speak German because one of the companies I called about health insurance is actually based in the German part, and their voice menu when I called was in Swiss German, which is not the same as High German. I don't speak Swiss German at all. I was able to understand it, but then when the guy got on the line, I was like, I'm sorry. I just spoke Hochdeutsch to him, and I was just like, I'm really sorry. I just got to Geneva. I need to register for health insurance for my family. My Hochdeutsch is not very good, and I do not speak Swiss German at all. And so I was like, I don't know if it's possible to speak either French or English. And he spoke English really well, so it was fine. But yeah, I've been having to have a lot of conversations in French on the phone or in person. The lady that we fired, the childminder, was Italian, but she didn't speak English very well, as we found out. But she did speak French very well. Like her French was better than mine and like very formal. And so we just spoke in French the whole time. So like on one hand, I'm getting like a mega language immersion in this regard, but like it can be kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
It tires you out.
It's code switching, but like you actually have to change your language back and forth. And then, and they're all languages that like, I know that you definitely speak them better than me, but also you're not speaking them on the same level as somebody who lives in Geneva all their life. I imagine living in Geneva, you might learn you probably have to learn French and Swiss German, at least a little bit of one or the other while you're learning all of the other one just to get by,
So they don't speak Swiss German here at all, but Swiss people, regardless of where they are, as I understand their education system, they go to school and learn the local language, whatever the area is where they speak, what they speak there. And up until the age of like 12 or 13, they have to take 2 foreign languages. One has to be English and one can be, whatever languages are available. Mm-hmm. So if you are, our daughter growing up here will go to school in French and speak French in school all day long, and then we'll have to learn English in school, which doesn't bother me because she's going to speak it at home. But like, if you don't learn English in school, even if it's a native speaker with like the rules for writing and stuff, like you're kind of at a disadvantage. So whatever, she'll test out of it, I'm sure, and to some extent. But then also she could study German, but they don't teach Swiss German in school because they don't teach German even in the German part. The kids go to school and speak High German. All the writing here is in High German when it's in the German language. All the official announcements and stuff are in High German, but nobody speaks High German at home in Switzerland, in the German speaking part. If they're Swiss, if they're like a German family, sure. So it's actually kind of awkward for them to speak High German because they don't speak it at work. They don't speak it with their families. They do have to speak it in school, but it's not actually their language. They speak Swiss German is mega regional, and it's actually an older variant of German. Like it's kind of Middle German in a way. It's something that's held out because of the relative isolation of Switzerland for a long time. And Germany, High German, what they call Hochdeutsch in German, is like, I believe the Hanover dialect kind of got standardized. And now, there's accents and there's regional dialects in German, but like the standard language, if you learn Hochdeutsch in Germany, like you'll be fine. There are some weird accents, but the best way I could describe it, dude, is like when people start speaking to me in Swiss German, I don't understand a word. When people switch to High German, they have kind of a funny accent, but I understand almost all of it. Like my German's not bad. I don't use it very often, but it's not bad. But it's like complete night and day binary, like either understand pretty much everything or nothing at all, because it is a different language. And it's also like if it's Bernese, if it's Zürcher from Zurich, if it's from St. Gall, if it's from Appenzell, if it's from Aarau, all these places, they have different dialects because you think about it, small country, but like it's all mountains and valleys. Mm-hmm. So like much like Pashto being mega regional because of the isolation, same thing here with the dialects of Swiss German. By comparison, there are a few tiny accent pronunciation things that are relatively rare in Swiss French that are different than France French, than like what they call Metropolitan French, but and they use different counters for 70 and for 90, but they're actually easier than what they use in what they call hexagon French. Like for the map of France is basically like shaped like 6 points, so they call it l'hexagone, means like within France itself. In standard French, the French we learn in school in America, the way that you count 70 is 60 10, 60 11, 60 12, 60 13, that kind of thing, and the way you count 80 is 420, 421, 422, 420, and then for 90 it's 420 10, 420 11, 420 12. They don't do that in Switzerland. They actually have words for them. So it's, instead of, 75 would be like 75, 60, 15. In standard French, it'd be 75 here. So you just have a word for 70. 80 is, I believe it's 80 is 80. So 85 would be 85 as opposed to 85. 95 would be 95 as opposed to 95. So like it's easier in that regard. There's a few words here and there, and old people sometimes have like a very pronounced regional accent here. But like me being a French speaker from having studied in France a bunch, I'm fine. Like 99.9% of the time, I'm fine. It's more like if I have a difficulty, it's because like it's fucking foreign language and it's not my native language. You know what I mean? Like I encounter words every day that I've never heard before. Because like, I'd consider myself, fluent in a sense, but I'm not a native speaker. And like, there's so much that you either don't learn or lose by not being in a French speaking environment, all the time.
Well, Nate, as interesting as French dialect is, I have a question for you, because we had a discussion. I had a discussion with Jack about road trips, and I was thinking, do you spend a lot of time bouncing around the Europe when you were a kid, and in America in some ways as well? Did you do a lot of road trips? Did you do German road trips when you were a kid? Did you get to get in the car and do like 5 hours one direction, go and check out some old castles or anything like that?
Yeah, I did. So my parents being my parents, there were some trips where there was stuff they wanted to do, and sometimes it was trips with stuff that was like family vacation. So I can recall going to, we would do things like we drove to Heidelberg, which was a pretty long drive. We drove to Trier.
There's a military resort at Heidelberg, isn't there?
Yeah, we didn't stay at that, but we lived near Stuttgart, and so driving to Heidelberg was at least a couple of hours, and we went there. We also drove to Trier, which is closer to the border with, I believe, with like France, Germany, or France, Luxembourg, Belgium, somewhere like that. I actually don't know where Trier is. I just know it's on the river, and there's a lot of Roman ruins there.
Oh, okay.
So we went there and we saw a bunch of the Roman, like the museum and like medieval museums and like all this sorts of artwork, castles and stuff, and like the Roman baths. That was actually a lot of fun. We also drove to Alsace, the the famously disputed Alsace-Lorraine area.
Yeah, I got a little Alsace in my bloodline too. Is it French? So, is it French? Is it German? It's Alsace-Lorraine. That's what it is.
Well, it's been both. There was this really bad at his job guy named Napoleon III, and he insisted on leading the army into battle against the Prussians, taking the Prussian bait to start a war over some imaginary bullshit about their ambassador being insulted, all to the tune of Otto von Bismarck, who was like, if we do this, the French will basically declare war on us, and then all of the Catholic parts of Germany Germany that don't want to join the Prussian Confederation will be forced to choose between fighting with their brethren Germans or fighting with the French, who are also Catholic, and they'll side with us, which was correct. And then they captured it. The emperor himself was captured at the Battle of Sedan. France was occupied. It was heavily indebted. Alsace-Lorraine got turned into German territory, which of course led to some pretty intense revanchism, which then led to a desire to punish Germany to a similar, if not worse degree after World War I, when France was the victor. And then some other stuff happened as a result of all of that. So basically what I'm saying is we should just have a neutral zone in Strasbourg, and then we don't have to worry about anything ever bad happening in Europe ever again, because there's definitely no problems happening anytime soon. Actually, you know what? I actually am trying to institute a personal policy. I'm so used to saying this stuff with people who are not native English speakers. I don't want to pronounce words in French the way you do it, because like that's not how it works. Like when I speak French and I use an English word, I would say like un parking. I'm not gonna say a parking. You know what I mean? Like, so it's Strasbourg. Yeah, Strasbourg. Anyway, I'm not pretentious. It's just literally, it's fucking hot here and I'm tired. But yeah, we drove out there one time. I remember having to cross the border as a kid back before the Schengen zone. And yeah, you would like, you know, be in the line in your car waiting, and everyone check your passports in the car to get into France. My parents don't speak French. That was interesting. They loved buying Alsatian like pottery. So they'd go to these places that made, the word in French is faïence, is like the kind of like ceramic ware. So we did that. And then I'm trying to think, to be honest with you, that's about really it. That I can think of.
They didn't take you around the States?
Oh, well, no, we didn't. No, not on trips for fun so much, but because my dad got stationed different places, we drove most of the time.
Yeah.
Well, when I was like 4, when my dad got deployed to Panama for 6 months, my mom took me and my brother on some road trips to see friends or family. One of my uncles he was still in the army. He was stationed at Fort Huachuca. So we actually drove from Fort Ord, California to Tucson, Arizona. And then also my parents were friends with their old neighbors in Tacoma. So, or in Kent actually. And so we also drove up to visit them. So we drove from Fort Ord, from Monterey to right outside of Tacoma, Washington. But then my dad he had to do what they now call ILE he got into this program where you did it at the Naval War College instead of the Army War College. So instead of having to go to Leavenworth, he went to Newport Naval Base in Rhode Island. So we drove from Monterey, California up to Washington to visit our friends again, and then all the fucking way from Seattle to Rhode Island in a Volvo with no air conditioning in 1989. So I would have been almost 5.
Yeah,
and I remember a lot of that.
I spent a lot of the trips that I took in a car were either to Kansas City or Southern Missouri to go visit family. Although my father and I did a just me and him road trip to New York City, and we went to Cooperstown. Was it Cooperstown or Coopersville? I can't remember. Baseball Hall of Fame, naval and aeronautical museums. We went to Niagara Falls. Spent time. The place we stayed in New York City was right outside of where they park all of the horses outside of Central Park. So like every time you walked out, you get this fresh like smell of horse manure. Which my father being a country boy was fine with, and me being like, why do we have to stay where all the horses are shitting? But it's still a great experience, and we're kind of doing the same with my daughter now. We're actually today. It's Friday before Labor Day weekend, and we're going to Kansas City on the Amtrak train, which is going to be fun. Now, I haven't been on an Amtrak train in years, and this is one that goes right through central Missouri out to Kansas City. And this is one of those times that Missouri is really just gorgeous, because like there's just so much wild trees and forestry out here that it's just big green waves that you're going to be going through, and we're going to be running right along the Missouri River too. So very excited to do that. But I just kind of wonder, like, you're in Geneva now, and if you have that experience of road trips, because I fucking hated road trips when I was a kid, because I'd always be stuck in the back. I'd get car sick. There wasn't anything to do. It'd be hot. It'd be irritating because it was the 90s and we didn't have, Netflix and tablets and Baby Shark or whatever it is that the kids are into these days.
I had a fucking Sony Walkman, or an off-brand Walkman, and I must have listened to the Top Gun soundtrack and the Batman soundtrack 1,000 times on that road trip. I can very clearly remember really liking Danger Zone. Zone, Playing with the Boys.
Hell yeah.
Cheap Trick's Mighty Wings. Didn't really like the Berlin song, but that doesn't surprise me. I was 4. Bat Dance, loved that. I loved my Batman cassette so much I wanted to clean the cassette, so I took it into the bath with me and ruined it.
I often wonder like how, Batman now versus the original, the very first like kind of the 1989 Batman movie where they're just like, let's just get weird with it. And also, Prince, can you do all the music for us?
Do an insane soundtrack. What's really funny is another word in French that I didn't know until recently from being here is their word for bat is souris chauve, which literally means bald mouse. And so I'm just imagining like Heath Ledger, but it's le Joker, his French Joker, is like, it's simple. We kill the bald mouse man.
Kill that bald mouse man, the flying bald mouse. Yeah, I did a lot of travel when I was younger, and so far the only thing we've really done is taken our daughter up to Wisconsin Dells or Branson, which the Dells is about a 6-hour drive and Branson is a 5-hour drive. But at least, there's roadside attractions here, and I feel like roadside attractions are kind of making a comeback a little bit. Like it seems like there's more places to stop over. There's an entire, outside of Fort Leonard Wood, there's an entire like place called Uranus, Missouri. That's just
I remember you telling me about it.
Yeah. So we got Uranus, Missouri. There's a Jim the Wonder Dog. If you're driving to Kansas City, Jim the Wonder Dog was apparently a psychic dog that could like tell how much like money you had in your pocket, which sounds like a real big grift to me. Like he can count the coins in your pocket without you showing them to him. But it's one of those little roadside attractions that they had, and we haven't fully done too much with our daughter yet, but we're testing some waters. We really want to do more train trips, honestly. Like
that's what I was going to say about here is that we are going to eventually get a car because some things are just more convenient, and then also for moving big things, and to some extent it's less of a thing now because like it just depends on the prices, and inflation has hit France pretty bad. But for a long time, like it was Switzerland hasn't had the level of inflation that, certainly not what Britain has had, but also not what France has had. And so like, while prices here are high, don't get me wrong, the like massive discount you'd get by going right over because it's not far at all from the French border. Like Geneva is, it's not an exclave because it's connected to the rest of Switzerland, but it's a very, very narrow band. It's the absolute westernmost part of the country. And so we are going to get a car eventually, but I would say the trains here are great. Like they're super good. Like they're the best trains I've ever taken in my life outside of Japan, but I've taken trains here far more than I've taken Japanese trains. They're really, really on time. They go fucking everywhere. You always have signal. They always have cafe service. And pretty much every train I've ever been on in this country for like a inner city train has a car on the top floor, has a jungle gym play area for kids.
Oh, that's cool.
It's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So like, I think we're going to do a lot of that, but we'll probably get a car too. There's places we'd like to go. Also, there's places in France we'd like to go. There's places in Italy we'd like to go. I don't speak Italian, but I'm sure I could figure it out because it's another Romance language, whatever. Obviously I do speak French, and like Lyon is about an hour and some change from here. Paris is a little under 3 hours from here. So like, I have a friend who works in the fashion industry, and he's here typically, or he's in either Paris or Milan once or twice a year for events. And if I were to go visit him, Milan's a lot further, but it's doable by train. But Paris, like I could come out to see him after an event and then just like either get the last train back to Geneva or spend the night in a hotel and take the train in the morning. Like it's super easy. So there's stuff that we'd like, to get around. I do think getting a car though, it's just like it's more for practical things. Yeah, I'm excited to do that. We were talking about taking our daughter to Lausanne last weekend, our first weekend here, but it was actually kind of bad weather on Sunday. We had some stuff we had planned already for Saturday, and then like what was forecast for a thunderstorm and kind of cooling down on Monday actually happened on Sunday, and so it wasn't really going to be a good day for going out. So we just did some walking around here instead. But the Saturday we took her down to the kind of Geneva icon, the water jet, and then got ice cream and let her play in the grass and took pictures, and she got to ride on a carousel with her mom. So it was fun. But like as she gets older, like definitely want to get around. And because Cynthia knows this country really well. She dated a Swiss guy for a long time. She was here a ton. She lived here for 2 years. I think Basel's the only city in this country she's never been to. For our daughter's birthday, we're planning on taking her to Bern to go see if we can go to the Bern Zoo where they have the bear exhibit and all that stuff. So yeah, that's in the cards already, man. Like, we really want to travel around here. And I mean, it's easy to get around Switzerland. And also, like, they like kids here. They're just like nice to kids.
It's also,
they make it easy.
It feels like it's easy to get anywhere in Europe. Like, there's trains all over the place going like, hey, I want to, if you're in, you're in Switzerland and you decide, hey, look, we want to go up to France. It's not that bit, like, it's not just a hop over the border, but you can catch a train there for a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah, it's not very much money either. No, it's not. And it's also something that's nice is that, like, so obviously Britain is accepted because train service in Britain is not great. It's really expensive. And although the Channel Tunnel exists, getting in and out of Britain by train is a fucking nightmare. Like, it's just annoying.
Yeah, the people always argue that, like, the reason why the United States doesn't have good rail services because we're so big, we're so spread out, which is like, okay, I can understand that argument. But then you look at England, which is not big like the United States and is a smaller island, and also you guys can't figure it out either. Well, your government can't figure it out.
They did. I mean, like, but the thing about it is with Britain is that, like, basically they've been favoring cars and underfunding development of trains and stuff since the 60s even, and it's also like everything is privatized. I think I've told you before that, like, the franchise operators of some of the British regional rail lines, the private operators, because it's privatized, are I'm not joking, the British subsidiaries of state-owned rail enterprises in other European countries, using the insane markup on tickets to overcharge Brits to make money to subsidize their state-run trains in France, for example, or in Germany. SNCF does it, Deutsche Bahn does it. I would say compared to 20 years ago, train service isn't as good, but, like, it's still there. I mean, in Europe in general, I'd say Switzerland's definitely the exception. Deutsche Bahn's gotten a lot worse, but, like, it's still, in terms of it being there and being easy, yes, absolutely. It's so much easier than America. Like, I'll be real with you, even, like, the worst regional train I've ever been on in Britain is nicer than the Acela. And it's probably faster in general because the Acela has some stretches where it goes really fast, but most of the time it goes like sub-regional commuter train speed. Like, it's not fast.
Yeah.
And it's insanely expensive.
Well, yeah, the big reason why we're doing this train trip now is because we caught a deal. Like, we caught the difference is, like, okay, how much is it going to cost for us to rent a car and drive versus taking the train? And at least with I prefer the train, and it's really nice that where we're being dumped, Union Station in Kansas City is going to be right next to, it's like attached to the hotel that we're staying at, and we're going there for an Irish dance festival, so it's all happening right there. It makes it easy when you're like, look, I don't really have to go anywhere when I'm here, and as long as my car's back where I parked it when we go home, we'll be fine. But yeah, we want to see if this is a viable way to enjoy travel, because I don't like driving for long stretches of time. Like, it hurts my back and my leg because I'm old and I sit a lot already, and I don't want to do more sitting to get from one place to another. And in an airplane, while it's fast, it's such a pain in the ass, and you're just like incarcerated on in a seat. So this month, actually, we're going to be doing trains, and then at the end of the month, we're flying to Hawaii. So we're going to see how our daughter deals with 11 hours of flying. We have to leave it, like, our flight is like 7 a.m. here, and then we'll arrive at like 1 p.m, but it's going to be a 12-hour kind of period of flying. So we'll see how we all manage to hold up on that one. I know I'm good. Beth has flown to Thailand before, so she knows how to do overseas flights. But we're gonna see. We're doing it on Southwest too, so, like, they're kind of the Greyhound of the skies.
I will say a prayer for you guys. Yeah, I mean, our daughter did really well on the flight to the Canary Islands and back, which is 4.5 hours each way. She did fine on the flight to Geneva, but it's like an hour and 15 minutes in the air. I would say for trains for Amtrak, so I've traveled a bit on Amtrak in America, in the sense that I have taken the Amtrak from to and from basically between Fayetteville and New York City a couple of times. And I've taken New York City, DC a ton of times, but past DC, it's not electrified. So you've got, like, diesel locomotives. The thing I'd say about it is that, like, Amtrak is more comfortable in general, in the sense that the seats are way bigger. You have the cafe cars, you have the bathrooms, you can walk around. It's fine. The difference is when there's delays, they're fucking atrocious. When there's delays there, you will, like Cynthia one time took the train from, I want to say, La Crosse, Wisconsin to Chicago, and then from Chicago back to Boston. And, like, within 20 minutes from what is it, South Bay Station, I think is what it is, or one of the Boston stations, her final destination, some kid tried to fucking jumped the tracks on a dirt bike and hit the train and died on a dirt bike. And so the train was just stuck there for like 24 hours in the middle of summer.
Ugh.
So like maybe not quite 24 hours, but it was really, really long, and she was miserable, and it was hot. And because the train was stopped, the AC wasn't working really well. I'm not saying, don't do Amtrak. I'd say it's definitely experience. I mean, also one thing that's nice about Amtrak is, you've got power sockets next to your seat. Sometimes the trains have like
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi. Yeah, the Wi-Fi sucks though. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi sucks pretty much everywhere when it's on a train. It's like one big cell phone for the train. So like you're just sharing a cell phone connection with everyone.
Sure.
And also if you're in an area with no signal, the train won't have signal. But they also typically have like drinking water taps where you can fill up water bottles and stuff. Like it's cool.
They got a nice little cafe car. I'm looking at the menu. They got
sometimes they also pass through the train and sell you stuff. You can drink beer on the train if you want to. Like, yeah, the seats feel like mega ultra luxury compared to the size of seats in planes now. So it's nice. I mean, you see parts of America you don't see on the interstate. Like you'll go through towns and you'll go through places where like you just simply, unless you're from there or had a reason, you wouldn't see them because like that's not the route the interstate takes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so it's cool.
Yeah, we've been wanting. There's a place called Washington, Missouri that has a train stop at it, and we've been to Washington. It's about an hour drive outside of St. Louis, and it's really nice. They have this really great bar that overlooks the river and everything that we enjoyed hanging out at, and we definitely want to do more of that. And part of this is if we like this, there's a Pacific line that goes Washington to somewhere in California, probably down to LA or so, and it runs along the coastline, and you get to see the coast. And so a big part of this is, do we enjoy being on the train? Is it annoying? Like if we drove, we'd be able to stop and do other things, but if we flew, we'd be there in 45 minutes rather than 5 hours. But this is kind of like an in-between here where it's going to take the same amount of time. We can't really stop, but also you can get up and you can walk around, and you aren't not going to have somebody come and say, no, you have to stay in your seat. You have the nice, you have room. Like I know nobody likes flying. Like I know that me saying I don't like flying is not, fucking everybody hates flying, but it is a being jailed inside of a tube 35,000 feet in the sky and having these very nice, polite people telling you to sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up constantly sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up. Like, I don't get weird on the plane. If you get weird on the plane, man, it's just bad juju for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me, I am very grateful, obviously, because the train system here is amazing. The CFF trains are amazing. And I'd say I was looking at if I needed to handle some admin stuff with Joe going up to the Netherlands, and like, frankly, to fly from here to Rotterdam is not direct. I could fly to Amsterdam, but it's like an hour and some change on the train to get down to where he is. And it's actually, if it's relatively soon that I'd be going, like on a weekend or something, it's actually, even to buy first class tickets on SNCF, it's the French train company, it's cheaper than flying. Yeah. And it's like, as it should be. It's like here's the thing. The French trains, what they call the TGV, literally, like, it just translates to high speed train. They are actually really, really, really fast. Like, it's not a short distance between Geneva and Paris, but you're on a train that goes insanely fast, so it's great. It's not quite like the Shinkansen in Japan, but it's very fast. And then you change stations in Paris, and then you basically get on the Eurostar. But Eurostar is annoying when you're going to London because you have to deal with customs and shit, but it's not annoying when you're in Europe because it's just a regular train. So yeah, like I could literally get first class seats with like a really good meal from SNCF. Like I've done it before. The meals are great, and it's like, yeah, it's cheaper than flying, but it's like 6 hours each way, so it's kind of annoying. But still, I just looked up Geneva to Paris. There's a website called Rail Europe, and they're wanting the cheapest seats are under $12 American. Yeah, it depends on where you are, what time. But yeah, one time I took a train in the middle of the week to go see Cynthia when she was onboarding down here, and I took the Eurostar, which is not cheap, to Paris, the North Station. Then you change trains or change stations. It's you could take the Regional Express commuter train. It's not like a train. It's like Metro North in New York City or Long Island Railroad. You take it 2 stops, and then you're at the station you need to be at, and then you get on that train, and it's like like 2 hours and 45 minutes, I think. And that train from Gare de Lyon to Geneva was, I think, a first class ticket was 68 euros. Like, it's just insane.
Yeah, it's like $50. Something like that.
Thereabouts. Yeah, 55 thereabouts, and like you get a nice meal. The Wi-Fi is pretty good. Like the it's comfortable. I got one of those seats where you have like a table and you have your own seat. Like you're not next to a person. You have a person across from you, but you're not next to a person. Like it's nice. So I mean, I foresee a lot of train travel in the coming years. In the coming months, I don't know. Like a lot of times, it's a question of time and money, and I kind of don't want to deal with Eurostar because Eurostar makes trains suck. It's way more expensive than flying, and you have to go through airport security and be held in a secure area, and you have to like report for your train like an hour before. So it's annoying, and that's because of Britain. It was like that before Brexit, but it's the same now. Whereas here, well, because they were never in Schengen. They were never in the common passport travel area.
Sure.
So, yeah, they made it annoying. But here, like, for example, when you go to Paris, which is in another country, you go up to the platform at Cordovan Station, the main station in Geneva, and the train originates in Lausanne, so like it takes about an hour to get, from where it starts. It gets there, it stops, you get on the train, you get your seat, just like like if you were just going to Lausanne, which is also in Switzerland, you just walk up, no security, no nothing, get on the train, and then it stops in Lyon. I think it stops in Lyon, I can't remember, but it definitely stops at a couple of like the regional cities that are near Geneva on the French side, like Bourg-en-Bresse and stuff like that. And then zip, you go mega fast through the sort of southeastern to central eastern France, and then you're in Paris. Like it's unbelievable. So yeah, there's things about it that, I mean, honestly, like if I had work shit, like if Joe had moved to Paris instead, he would hate it. But if he had, getting there would be super easy.
Yeah.
The problem with the Netherlands is that it's another 3 hours from Paris, and because you have to change trains, like they're not going to book you on a train that's like 10 minutes later. So you have to ride the RER.
You got to be on time.
Yeah. But I mean, it's nice, man. It's nice. And I don't know. It's like, what's weird for me is that like, I guess I never really, I was sort of like a college student dream. I was like, oh, it would be so cool to live in a French speaking country. I mean, and in my mind, it was like live in France. And it wasn't that I gave up. It's just other things happened. I didn't really care as much. And now I'm kind of like, I don't know. Cynthia's really happy to be here. I think this is going to be a really good, really healthy place for our daughter to grow up. She likes her job. I like the quality of life's insane here. And, well, if your goal was all along become fluent in French, like, well, I'm definitely having to do it. I'm having to speak it all day long. I had
probably a better language immersion than doing Duolingo, I imagine.
Well, yeah, like better language immersion in the sense of like having to, I had to have a phone call yesterday with an insurance broker about setting up a thing to talk about insurance plans. I had to have a call with a service that they can try to provide childcare while you're on the waiting list to get into a state, the state subsidized daycares here. All that has to be in French. Like they, if you can request accommodation in English, but it might not be available.
Good,
and also
good luck. Yeah.
Well, they're much better about that than in France, to be honest with you. Like that's one thing I will say, like, and the reason for that is that English is very often the common language between German speaking and French speaking Swiss people, because when you get down to it, the German that French speaking Swiss people learn in school is not what they speak in the German part. And so, but everyone has to learn English. And like, it actually, like, you'd be surprised. English it very much is not an official language of Switzerland, which has 4 official languages, one of which is like a very, very regional minority language that very few people speak, but it might as well be. Like, there aren't any signs on the train saying don't cross the tracks in Romanche. It's in French, in German, in Italian, and in English. So, les voilà, the actual official languages of French. So yeah, man, I'm Eurodad mode now, I guess. And I say things like,
you gotta get bike pilled like Joe, or I guess you're getting train pilled.
I mean, I'm when I get my bike down here, dude, it's gonna be so nice. Like, yeah, it's not as good. It's not as nice as the Netherlands. Having been there for the live show, it's not as nice in the Netherlands for cycling, but it's still very good. And people cycle everywhere here, so yeah, it's cool. I'm excited. I mean, there's so much stuff I've got to get done, like, and I can't make it happen any faster. But in terms of quality of life, I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, I walk down the street, it's beautiful. Stuff's relatively easy. Food's great here. Like, it's way expensive to eat out. So I go to the grocery store. I've been cooking a lot. Cynthia's been able to run pretty much every morning. Air quality is great. She's not wheezing. Baby's not wheezing. When do
you get your gun? Doesn't everybody in Switzerland
every
have a gun?
man who's been in the military, who's still in the reserves, technically has a gun. But I'm not in the Swiss military. I'm not a Swiss citizen. And yes, they own guns, but they don't have ammo at home. So that's kind of the reason.
Mail you some of that.
That's kind of the reason why they don't really have mass shootings in this country. But my daughter will, once by the time she becomes a Swiss citizen, if we stay here, assuming that's the plan, which it is, but we, obviously stuff can change. One thing they do is when you're 10 years old, you actually get rifle marksmanship and safety lessons, like free from the state, basically.
All right.
So she'll learn to shoot. when she's like 10.
Good. Just gotta learn how to zero her own rifle. Put three in a silver dollar circle at 25 meters. We'll get her there.
Yeah. And there are some places here because guns are legal. Like you can go to like indoor shooting ranges in Geneva and like they have like MP5s you can shoot and stuff like that. I might actually do that, honestly. Once I actually have my residence permit like in hand, so I have legal, Swiss ID, I might be like, yo, can I sign up to fucking shoot an Uzi? It'll be sick as hell. I've never done it before. Can I shoot an MP5?
Can I just go in there and do the HK slap thing on it?
I want to do some Lara Croft thing. I want to do some. I want to get massively fucking weird sharp angle from polygons and have 2 Uzis.
Yeah, I really I need to die hard this. I need to I have a machine gun now, and then just fucking take some people out.
Yeah, I'm just excited. I don't really care that much about marksmanship stuff. People who know the show know me that I'm the non-gun guy on the show. But yeah, if, that exists. I can do that. I can maybe go shoot a Dragunov and destroy my shoulder. I can't imagine they let you shoot Dragunovs in an indoor range. It's probably going to be stuff like submachine guns and pistols, quite frankly, because high-powered rifles, like the amount of stuff they'd have to put in there to stop it from over-penetrating, like it probably wouldn't be worth it. But most people don't go in because they want to shoot, like, unless it's like an AK or something, and they could probably use like subcal ammo and that, have it like, if that's not stupid, right? That's the thing you can do. Like they have modified like assault rifles and stuff like that, carbines, where they can take a different chambered round and they can use subcal ammo, so it's not like massively high-powered rounds.
I am sure that exists. However, anything like I know that bullet stops for a pistol range versus a place that you go do rifles, like if it's an indoor, you have to have different kind of bullet stops to it. So I don't know. I'd be interested to see if they do have sub ammo, because I know I've shot 22 sub ammo before. But it's just not going to give you this.
Me too.
Not going to give you the same feeling.
When I was a hitman for the mob. Anyway, now I'm going to get off the line before I get my cover blown. Well, Francis, it's wonderful to speak to you again. I know it's been a while, and rest assured, I'm holding it down, trying to find an apartment. If you're in Geneva and you're leaving a let's say 3-bedroom apartment or larger anytime soon, and before it's gotten listed, if you want to hit me up, just saying, at this point, as long as it's not in Tonnay, the literal furthest place it can be from where we need to get to for work and stuff, I'd probably consider it if we just so happen to have someone. Et je parle français aussi, donc si tu connaissez quelqu'un, vraiment, je peux envoyer mes détails pour le contact. But other than that, dude, it's great to speak to you, and hopefully we'll get back into the rhythm of doing this.
We will. We're gonna get on the other side of Labor Day. We're gonna move some stuff around. We're gonna be good to go. If you are listening and you don't know yet, we have changed the website to whatahelofawaytodad.com, and so the store is over there, and lots of cool new stuff in the store. We're doing apparel now, and also I like to go to secondhand stores and buy weird shit and throw it up in the store as well. So check out the Podcast Attic on What a Hell of a Way to Dad. Find your next mug or your next ashtray. I found a really cool ashtray that's for sale up there, or a McDonnell Douglas Apache Tank Killer frosted mug for you to sip your Coors Light out of.
Well, you know what? That all sounds amazing. Friends, listeners, people who have supported us, we're very grateful for you. And this strange podcast time capsule, cataloging all of these things that have happened over the course of our lives in the last 7 years, it's been great. So let's keep at it. It's just getting weirder and weirder. You know what? When it started, I was in Brooklyn. Francis was still in St. Louis in a different house, in the big haunted house. Then I was in Britain. Now I'm in Switzerland. Who knows? What haunted city at the bottom of a volcano, lost city of Atlantis, Moonbase Alpha. You tell me.
Yeah, you moved to England and then to Switzerland, and I moved about a mile away from my other house.
Well, my dad's side of the family are Huguenot, and so I am basically retracing the steps, which is to imply that I need to spend a lot of time in the Netherlands and also at some point wind up in France and like reverse club myself to death, like club myself back to life. And then I have completely retraced into the Huguenot experience in reverse.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Remember, you can get even more on our Patreon, patreon.com/hellofaWayToDie. That one still is under the
they
old...
won't let us change it.
Hey, but that's fine. It's still there. We are still Hell of a Way to Die over there. $5 a month gets you access to everything. Just recently put out a Deadliest Warrior episode. Still doing Deadliest Warrior every month, along with a lot of other great stuff. 3 episodes a month at the $5 level. Nate, thank you for taking the time out. I hope you have a good weekend. I'm about to go and jump on a train and hopefully not get stuck on the tracks in the middle of Missouri somewhere.
I'm about to go to bed because I'm tired as hell, but it's great speaking to you again, and we'll talk to you soon.